Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, the iconic Hoosier Hysteria got Hoosier fans excited as they are gearing up for a new season of IU basketball.
And we learn the story of field hockey goalkeeper Sachi Ananias' journey from Chile to Bloomington. This is Hoosier Sports Night. Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Austin Render.
And I'm Lydia Knoll.
A special IU holiday took place this past weekend and thousands of fans gathered at Simon Scott Assembly Hall to celebrate. Our basketball beat reporter Jordan Burrows interviewed a mix of Hoosier fans to hear what they were most looking forward to at Hoosier Hysteria.
It's Indiana basketball. There's nothing like it. I grew up loving it, still love it, and my kids love it, my nephew loves it, my kids' friends love it. It's Indiana.
5 decades into Hoosier Hysteria, and for fans of Indiana basketball, it all remains the same. An iconic dunk contest, a three-point challenge, and the players are scrimmaging one another to get ready for the upcoming season. What is IU basketball about?
Just a winning tradition and doing things right.
So what's he going to do with the dunk contest?
Looking for a 360, maybe under the legs, anything that can beat Adam Day last year.
I used to come to almost every ball game, but getting older, you kind of slow down, you know.
What is it that really does attract you to Assembly Hall and to Hoosier Hysteria?
Tradition, history, all the things that we have in Indiana that a lot of places don't have. Being around different parts of the country, you hear football and all of that, but growing up, we had a shed with a goal hooked on the side of it, you know, and we shoot on it all the time, and just the history that we have here in Indiana. So I want my kids to understand that and my family to understand that and be part of it.
We have one mission as a group, is to be the most together, be the most unselfish, and at the end of the day, represent Hoosier Nation and make you proud.
Looks like the fans enjoyed themselves at Hoosier Hysteria, and I'm glad to see Archie Miller show some love to the fans.
With Hoosier Hysteria building up anticipation for the season, let's toss it to another one of our basketball reporters, Zane P. Arley, who gives us insight on how this team can come together.
Thanks, guys. Hoosier Hysteria was Saturday, and that means basketball season was right around the corner. Here's a couple things I'll be looking for in the men's basketball exhibition games before the regular season begins. Number 1, the defense. Archie Miller said that practices have been 75% focused on defense. For an Indiana team that ranked 104 in adjusted defense last year, there's a big improvement to be made this year. How do we expect IU to turn it around? Well, Miller's Dayton team ranked 43rd in adjusted defense last year, so there's hope from the new head coach. Number 2, the turnovers. The Hoosiers averaged over 15 turnovers per game last year, ranking them in the 300s in all of the NCAA. In order for IU to improve in this category, they will have to rely heavily on the guard play of Josh Newkirk, Robert Johnson, and Devontae Green, plus the addition of getting senior forward Colin Hartman will help tremendously as well. The third thing I'm looking for is the jump of the sophomore class. Deron Davis, Devontae Green, and Curtis Jones all had their moments as freshmen last season, but now they'll be counted to play a pivotal role in year 2. We should expect Davis to be the focal point of the offense in the paint after shedding 20 pounds in the offseason. Also, Green and Jones will be big, providing depth off the bench behind Newkirk and Johnson. We'll get to see how IU looks against a different opponent Saturday with their first exhibition game against Marion at 8 p.m. on BTN+. Lydia and Austin, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Zan. The IU swimming and diving teams returned to Bloomington victorious after earning 3 team victories in Gainesville against top 3 ranked Texas and top 20 ranked Florida. In the meet, the 6th ranked men's squad defeated number 2 Texas and number 4 Florida, extending their win streak in dual meets to 15. Meanwhile, the 10th ranked women's squad defeated number 18 Florida but came up short against number 3 Texas. The Hoosiers notched 19 individual wins and an impressive 7 relay victories throughout the weekend.
Among those victories is the men's team's stellar finish in the 200 freestyle relay, where they put up the fastest time in the nation so far.
Not to be outdone, the Hoosier women won this race as well, and thanks to a strong performance by their Team B, were able to place 2 teams in the top 3.
Following the meet, the Hoosiers saw a rise in their rankings, as the women are now ranked 7th and the men have taken over the top spot in the nation.
Both the men's and women's teams will try to defend their new rankings when they get back in the pool on Friday to face Tennessee and Kentucky in Knoxville, Tennessee.
When Hoosier Sports Night continues, IDS cross-country reporter Murphy Wheeler joins us to preview the men's and women's Big Ten championships this weekend.
And hear from Associate Athletic Director Jeremy Gray on the role of social media within athletics. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night. The cross-country Big Ten championships are this weekend right here in Bloomington, and we have IDS cross-country reporter Murphy Wheeler here to discuss these big races. Murphy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And let's talk about the Big Ten championship. It's a chance to see how Indiana stacks up against some other teams. You've been covering both teams. How would you say that they stack up against the rest of the Big Ten?
Well, the Big Ten's really kind of up in the air this year. There's a lot of talent, but definitely a lot of parity as well. And, you know, there's been probably 6 or 7 teams this year that have either been ranked in the top 30 in the cross-country coaches poll or have received votes. And IU has been ranked at some point. The women's team got as high as 14th in the nation, which was actually their best ranking in program history. And the men's team got as high as 21st. They aren't ranked anymore, and the women's team is 29th. But there's just a lot of teams that could honestly, any of them could win the championship.
I'm sure it doesn't hurt. This is on home turf for Indiana. So what are the advantages of Indiana being able to host this event?
Right. Well, one thing IU has proven all year is hardly anybody runs better on their home course than them. And they've had 2 races this year in Bloomington. They started the year with the IU Open, which both teams finished first in. And then about 4 weeks ago, they had the Sam Bell Invitational, where the men's team finished first and the women's team finished second. And in the women's race, Michigan defeated IU, and at that point in time, Michigan was the 4th-ranked team in the nation, and IU only lost them by 10 points. So obviously, IU's course is honestly pretty difficult. There's a lot of hills. There's a lot of weird footing for the runners. So they know how to run well on this course, and they've done it all year.
Let's talk about some individuals specifically. Who should we be watching for this weekend for both the men and the women?
Well, on the men's side, sophomore Ben Veach is definitely one to look out for. I'm kind of expecting a top 5 finish from him this year. He was 8th last year, got Big Ten Freshman of the Year as well. He's been running really well all year, and 2 weeks ago when they ran at Wisconsin, he was one of the few runners that actually ran pretty well for them. But everybody, the men's team doesn't have a lot of depth this year. They've been fighting injuries, so honestly, everybody's going to have to give their best performance. On the women's side, Catherine Receiver, who's a junior, has been outstanding this year. She was an All-American last year, and she has just been building on that all year. She's probably the favorite to win individually this weekend, and Maggie Allen is another person to look out for. She's been running really well as well. And she's been their number 2 runner all year. So Catherine Receiver definitely somebody to watch out for.
It's obviously a big weekend. You talked about how strong the Big Ten is, kind of getting ready for the NCAAs. So what are some reasonable expectations in your mind for both teams this weekend?
To be honest with you, both teams could finish anywhere from 1 to 7. That's how close all these teams really are. I think both teams will give out their best effort, especially since it's a home meet. I think the women's team definitely has the better chance to win. There's a couple of teams, Penn State and Michigan, who are top 10 teams. They're going to be the favorites, but IU, I think, could be right there with them. And the men's team, it's the same way. There's just about 4 or 5 teams that are really close in the rankings. IU dropped out, but they are, at home, there's hardly anybody better than them.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Murphy. Enjoy the races this weekend, and good luck.
Well, thank you.
This past week, I had a chance to meet IU field hockey's backup goalkeeper, Sachi Ananias, and find out the story of her journey from Chile to Bloomington.
Sachi Ananias is a freshman at IU playing goalkeeper for the field hockey team. She's made an instant impact as a freshman, tallying 5 saves against Delaware and 2 against Central Michigan.
She's a good athlete, she's quick, she's fast in the cage, and she makes really good saves. So I think there's so much potential there, and she's helped us kind of strengthen our goalkeeper unit, and we're excited for her to get more playing time in the future.
Sachi was born and raised in Santiago, Chile. She's one of the first IU athletes to ever come to Bloomington from Chile.
I started about age 5 or 6 playing it. I was a field player until 5th grade. Then I started playing goalie, and I haven't stopped since then. I actually didn't know where IU was. I haven't heard about it. 1 year past the decision I wanted to study here, no coaches wanted me on their team, so Coach Yanni was the last coach that talked to me, and I was super excited because I wanted to come.
It's not a short journey to come from Chile to the U.S. Ultimately, Sachi's decision to come to IU came down to a perfect balance between athletics and the classroom.
IU mixes up both excellence in academy and sports-wise. I didn't want to come here just to play field hockey. I wanted to come to school as well and to excel in school. So it pretty much mixed up both things I wanted, in pretty high standards.
Yeah, she's a great personality. I think she gets along really well with her teammates. They get along great as friends, but they also compete at practice, and they raise the level of each other. So she seems to be fitting in great, and her English is really kind of improves every month, and we're excited she's here.
Indiana starting goalkeeper Katie Johnson is a senior this year and has prepared Sachi for lots of action between the posts in the years to come.
The regular season ended last weekend, but the Big Ten tournament begins on Friday as Indiana travels to Ann Arbor for their first-round matchup with Ohio State.
IUSTV utilizes social media, as do most of the athletes we cover. Take a look at what Associate Athletic Director Jeremy Gray has to say about the athletes' use of social media. With new NCAA rules implemented almost annually, some may be surprised to find there aren't strict regulations on collegiate athletes' use of social media. As a public platform, athletes must consciously monitor what they're putting out to the world. Marketing Director of IU Athletics, Jeremy Gray, believes strongly in the individual's freedom of speech, but also understands the risks involved under the spotlight.
The athletes, they are students who are afforded their First Amendment privileges protected by the U.S. Constitution and upheld by the Student Code of Conduct here at Indiana University. I also believe, and the department believes, it's important that we allow them to develop their own voice and view of the world and be able to express themselves freely. Be careful what you post. Be careful of how you represent yourself. Don't embarrass the team. Don't embarrass the university, or to portray yourself in a negative light that might hurt you down the road.
Despite some of the risks involved with social media, Jeremy Gray also sees social media as an opportunity for athletes to further promote themselves as well as their sport here at IU.
The way I look at it is I see many of our students who participate in intercollegiate athletics as the marketing person in the athletic department, being some of our best ambassadors. You'll see a football player getting people hyped for a game and getting 78 retweets and 232 likes, or a baseball player saying something funny that I think gives people a glimpse into his personality that makes them want to root for them maybe in a deeper and more profound way than they did before.
According to basketball senior Tim Priller, the players take full advantage of their social media influence in season to promote upcoming games and engage with their fans.
Some of us probably just, like I said, retweet the Indiana basketball page or just, hype it up, I guess.
Speaking of social media, don't forget to like our Facebook page, IUSTV Sports, as well as follow us on Twitter at IUSTV Sports. That's all we have for you this week. For Austin Render, I'm Lydia Knoll. We'll see you next week.